Congratulations to Naomi Osaka winning the Australian Open on Australia Day. And obviously congratulations in Japan, because this is a big deal in Japan. Their sporting heroes are really very, very important here. One thing I noticed though was the public speaking aspects of Naomi, and how she handled her acceptance speech, and then how she handled the press conference. And if you get a chance, look at both. There's a couple of lessons there. I'll start with the press conference first, because that was very insightful. First of all, many of those questions from those journalists were absolutely ridiculous. It was just pathetic. I mean, wow. What are they thinking, asking those sorts of stupid questions? But she handled them so well. She was very calm. She was very natural. She just dealt with them. One of the American interviewers asked her something, and she said, "Oh, you got a lot of big words in that question." Like, she was very humble and self-effacing, and they were quite difficult questions, some of them, but she handled them very, very well, because she was very calm in that situation. And handling difficult questions from journalists is not the easiest thing in the world, but she handled it very, very well, because she wasn't spooked by them. She wasn't trying to, overpower them or, make an assertion against something they're saying. She just was talking very naturally. She was being herself, and she wasn't feeling threatened. And interestingly enough, in the press conference, she referenced, because someone asked her about public speaking, they referenced her about, are you going to get public speaking lessons? You said you forgot some things you want to mention. What were they? Blah, blah, blah. What I found interesting about the actual acceptance speech was she looked about 1 million times more nervous getting the trophy and making that speech than she did in the press conference. And she mentioned it herself, that she was panicking. And she also mentioned that, she's not a person who speaks much. Normally, she's, rather, softly spoken, and also doesn't talk much to people. Could be an Aussie, really, rather laconic Aussie style, actually. Anyway, so for her, that acceptance speech is a pressure point for her. And she also hasn't done any training for that. She mentioned that. So I said, some people get training. And, I'm not sure about that. She wasn't certain about that. Here's one of the lessons, though. At the age of 21, she's now #1 in the world. So the elevation of expectation of her being able to perform in public has come right up, and come up very, very quickly. If you've seen any of her previous acceptance speeches, she often says the same thing: I'm not very good at public speaking, I'm feeling very uncomfortable. And she keeps mentioning that, but she's obviously not doing anything about it. The reference point here for all of us is, often we are in jobs where they're very technical, or we need to have a lot of particular knowledge about a subject, and we don't see the public speaking component as being relevant, because our jobs are very technical, and so we don't do much about it. But then when we get catapulted into positions where we have to talk in public, be it within a section or the division or the department or in a public venue, that's when the gap comes out, because then we're thrust out of our comfort zone, like she was in that case, and we struggle a little bit. So the point here for all of us who are in work where we're coming up through the ranks, we will get to a stage at some point where we'll be required to speak in front of others. And this is where it's better to get the training. Now, at 21, that probably doesn't happen that often in a business environment, because you're probably just coming out of university. It's your first job, you just started. You're probably not going to have many opportunities to speak anyway. But here she is, she's 21, #1 ranking in the world in tennis, and she's been concentrating her whole life on her drop shot, on her serve, on her passing shot, on her backhand, her forehand, all the technical subjects of tennis. And yet she hasn't devoted anything to, I'm going to be in the limelight when I win, I'm going to have to make acceptance speeches, I'm going to need to become better in this facility. So she hasn't caught up with that, but that's come to her very early at 21. The lesson for the rest of us is, it will come. Mightn't come at 21, but it will come. Maybe it's late 20s, maybe it's early 30s. It will come. We need to be ready for that situation so that we can build our brand. Now, she's got a phenomenal brand. She's got a whole bunch of things going for her there. She could take that to another level. She could take it to another level and really build an even more powerful brand. She's extremely natural. She's very, very humble. All pluses, big pluses. If she was to take a little bit of time and not just do the technical training on tennis, but just do some training on public speaking, she would be A, a lot more comfortable up there on the podium and relaxed. I mean, you've just been through hours and hours of massive tennis in massive heat in Australia, so it must be exhausting, and the emotional component of that must also be exhausting. So it's a very hard situation to come off the court and into that venue, but that's the reality of her work. She will do that. She will come off the court into a situation where she has to speak, and why panic? And why be umming and ahhing and thinking, oh, what have I got to say? I can't remember what I've got to say. I know I was supposed to say something. Oh, yeah, she mentioned the press conference. Oh, yeah, I forgot to smile. I was looking at my notes before it said smile, and I completely forgot to smile. Well, that's right, because there's a lot of pressure. But this is not going to go away for her. So, I mean, obviously at 21, it's a lot of pressure. I wouldn't like to be doing that when I was 21, I can tell you. But if she was able to get some training on that, it would help her. And what about the rest of us? The degree of pressure she's feeling, the degree of pressure we're going to feel when we're up in front of a public audience, same. So, are we going to keep putting ourselves through that pressure cooker all the time because we're not taking the opportunity to get some training to control that stressful situation and be able to get across some messages? Now, I'm not quite sure about the rules of tennis and how that works, but I noticed that during the acceptance speech, she didn't mention any of her sponsors. She had 3 sponsors on her jacket and on her uniform. Didn't mention any of those. Whether she was supposed to mention them, she got them, I don't know. But as someone who would hopefully be looking for bigger and bigger sponsors, that would obviously be, if it's able to be done, a good thing to remember and be comfortable and composed enough to do that. So the lessons from Naomi are, be yourself, terrific, keep doing that. Press conference, she was very relaxed compared to when she was in the acceptance speech. Try to take that relaxation into those pressure cooker situations where you are feeling a bit stressed, and you'll perform much better. And the other thing is, get the training. Now, I mean, I don't know Naomi Osaka, and I doubt whether I'll ever be in touch with Naomi Osaka, but if I was able to, I'd say, Naomi, why don't you go and do the high impact presentations course with Dale Carnegie? And I don't say that because, we're going to make some money and Dale Carnegie's going to get a sale. No, it's not about that. It's about, I know because I teach this course, phenomenal program. And she would get a lot out of that. That would really help her to overcome her nerves and be more composed about what she wants to say and be in more command of that situation and be able to say things in a way which builds her personal brand. Now, at 21, yeah, okay, she's got to have many, many years of these things, and probably it'll kick in at some stage. But for the rest of us, we might be a little bit more advanced in our career, and something like the High Impact Presentations course is probably more needed for us at our stage in our careers, because we're a little bit down the track compared to her, in terms of age anyway. So there's some thoughts for you. If you're ever in those situations where you're under pressure when you're public speaking, get the training. I mean, even if it's not with us, I mean, we got the best. I mean, I'm just saying that because of Dale Carnegie. That's a fact. We've got the best. If you want the best, come to us. But even if you can't come to us, get some training somewhere. It will take a lot of the pressure, a lot of the stress out. You'll feel much more comfortable. You'll be much more capable of getting key messages out to people. And your whole personal brand just goes up. The other thing I'll mention before I finish is there are 117 podcasts sitting on iTunes for the Presentations Japan series. All free. If you want to learn what are some key things I should be taking into consideration when I'm up in public speaking, be it with my section, division, department, within the whole company, or an industry event or a public event, there's 117 hints there on what you can do to become much more fluent, much more capable, much more professional, and much more relaxed when you're doing it. So all free. Go to iTunes, the Presentations Japan series, it's there. If you're interested in actually doing the training, and I recommend you do, because if you're going to rise in your career, you'll definitely need to have influence, and you'll need to have persuasion power, and the High Impact Presentations course does that. Just go to your websites there, our website, I should say, go to internet and punch in www.enjapan, one word, .dalecarnegie, one word, .com. So enjapan.dalecarnegie.com, and then you'll find presentations and therefore a number of courses, but High Impact's fantastic. When I first did the course, I was just blown away. I was like, when I did it, I'm damn. I was kicking myself, I was really kicking myself, because when I did the course, I realized, I should have done this course 20 years before. I should have done it 20 years earlier. What was I thinking? And then, it was too late by then. The 20 years had passed, but at least I got to do it. And it really helped me to get my presentation skills going up, and it'll do the same for you. So I'd love for Naomi Osaka to take some of that stress and pressure off herself when she's doing those acceptance speeches. And if you really want to see some moronic questions and how to handle them, have a look at the press conference after the Australian Open. There were some really terrible questions there. What are these journalists doing? I mean, honestly, they're not professionals. Those questions, they are not professionals. Terrible. But she handled them very well, and credit to her for the win. And Naomi, get some training. It'll be so much better for you when you're in those pressure cooker situations, accepting that massive big trophy or whatever it is you're going to accept. And I hope for everyone else, let's all learn from that, and let's take some of the stress off ourselves and make sure that we're fully in charge and fully capable of projecting the most professional and the best personal brand we can possibly do with the least friction and the least stress. Sounds pretty good to me. Let's try and do that.